Why do you decide to come back?
So there's something I missed.
Grace.
There's grace and there's something else I missed. When I finished uni in 2004, enter David Kamau. So we had been having this conversation. Here I am in Isaac doing all these things that are youth leadership oriented, getting all this corporate experience. David at the same time had finished his schooling in USIU earlier. Psychology. He had done a master's in leadership even before I finished my final degree. And so he had gotten jobs in places like Emerging Leaders Foundation. Was it Emerging Leaders? No, ELF is another one nowadays. There's another one called Emerging Leaders something, somewhere on Valley Road. Then later he became the youth programs coordinator at Peak Performance. So he was into all this content, leadership development and stuff. But he was frustrated that he felt he had the ability to create programs, but didn't have the space where he was working to do so. And I am having this corporate experience and all sorts of things. So we started talking about, why don't we just package something for ourselves and, run with it. So that's when we registered a company, which at the time we thought we are going to be about youth leadership development. And so we started brainstorming, should it be an NGO, should it be a company? We're like, no, let's do a company. If it's really going to have value, people should be willing to pay for the services. So we built this company that was youth leadership oriented. And the acronym we ended up coming with was Wylde Youth Leadership Development.
Wylde.
Yes.
Get it.
So we went and registered it as Wylde. And
so it's just so at this time the shareholders of the company, the two of you?
Just the two of us, young guys. For him, it was still a side hustle because he was still at Peak Performance. For me, it was a side hustle for the next 3 years because I went to Uganda. And it's funny that every time I would come back, I would get some business connection. He would, would somehow just find some work to do. We'd be training a youth camp. We'd be training this and that. And then we started to get work with NGOs that had leadership programs. So I remember like Compassion International, World Vision, PSI, Population Services International.
Those are big companies for still to do youth.
Yes,
leadership.
And at the time, I think we were actually like way ahead of a curve. There was almost nobody else doing that as a business. It was like unthinkable, to have someone pitching to do youth leadership development as a business. So getting traction was a bit difficult. So I remember when I was in Uganda and when I was in Norway, and when I went to Norway, David decided he was going to quit Peak Performance as an employee and now run Wylde. So I would send over money for him. So we got an office in Scripture Union. Navigators was the second one. And you'll see a trend of Christian locations. So we got an office in Scripture Union it was like a small, it was sublet, so it was like a small corner of an office for Church Mission Society or something, another organization. So we got this office in the corner for like 15K rent, and that's where we set up shop for Wylde to run. So before that, David had another temporary office, and then we got this office. So David started running it full-time before I came back to run it full-time. So even when I was in Norway, there's something that was always running at the back of my mind. I have a company back in Kenya that we just need to figure out ways. I was always even looking out for opportunities, maybe partners we can link up with in Norway, which came up a bit later. In Norway, I met some guys who are running an almost similar company, and during holidays, I would invite me, or when I take my time off, I would go and do training with them in a program or something. And so it was kind of like a side hustle there, but keeping me in touch with my passion of leadership development, for that kind of thing. So, so formed a friendship with those guys. So as I was coming to the end, the other thing that then happened is that the person who's now my wife had gone on a similar exchange program, but now with a mask shipping company. She had gotten into the management. Mask, M-A-E-R-S-K. This shipping company, big blue shipping company. Maersk. That's how you pronounce it. So she had gotten into the management program here and the leadership program. And as part of that program, she was expatriated to Denmark, which is right next to Norway. So what happened is that I didn't know she was even there. Remember back to Navigators, where we were friends and knew each other and stuff. So a friend from Navigators days called Josiah Mugambi travels to Europe So when Josiah is in Europe, he's reaching out to all his Kenyan friends in Europe. So he reaches out to me. And then when he reaches out to me, he's like, oh, by the way, do you know Grace is in Denmark? I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So he gives me her email address. I write to her and we begin chatting. Those were days of
MSN Messenger.
Chat,
Yeah, MSN Messenger.
MSN Messenger, yeah. So we began chatting and, doing those whatevers and talking, of course, reliving the old days. And we were kind of isolated there. She had come from a previous relationship here. So when she was there, she was moving on from that and everything. So she had been there like a year before. So she was in her second year. So we started talking. And quickly in that conversation, towards the tail end of my time in Norway, we started dating. Yeah, like online. So
you not have you got to Denmark at this time?
At one point I did. I went to see her. At one point she came and visited Norway. At one point we went to visit a friend of ours, Jodo, in Belgium. We used to go and like Europeans hook up and do like visits to each other quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that you get to see countries. It's pretty cheap to fly through Europe. So we started dating and fast forward. So I came back in around April of 2007. We got married in December of 2007. Like we just fast tracked that whole conversation. I think we dated for 13 months before dating and getting married. So what happened is that, so towards the tail end, I am wondering, should I extend my contract? There was an offer to extend my contract, but I was thinking about there's that company back home. I need to go back. I want to contribute to my whatever. There was also opportunities to get jobs through ISEC to other whatever. I remember there was an opportunity in Singapore with DHL and that kind of thing. But anyway, at the end of the day, just thought through it and I'm like, no, I want to go back home and build my company. And Grace was also like, I've been here long enough. I am not passionate about staying. She could have extended her contract with Maersk as well. But she was going to come back a few months after I did. So I came back, joined David. Even by the time I came back now, going back to the Scripture Union office, I was not so sure that I was coming back, maybe get a job and, use that money to build the company as a side hustle. Like it was not clear. I had not yet made up my mind. But then when I came back, first we were already housemates with David again. We had been housemates before I left, a short stint before I left in Kawangware again with another guy called Steve Nyumba. So when I came back, we were in
Steve
this
from
household.
the IT guy.
Yeah, the IT tech guy, that group of people, Kenolo, Steve, Amani Maranga, myself, David Kuria, David Kamau, were all housemates in one house in Gumo at some point.
What?
We used to have people come in and go out.
Oh, you
come in, get married.
Out.
When you're out, someone else comes, take your place until we all got eventually married. David Kuria was the last one from that whole crew. We all were housemates in that house.
That's crazy.
David Kamau, David
Even
Kuria.
Amani Maranga was there?
Yes, even Amani
was,
Kenolo. It was a household for... So the common thing amongst all of us is Fortress and Navigators.
Yes, in fact, I was going to say, we took Kenolo's office when we were moving into Navigators.
Yeah. So that was the common thing. So anyway.
That's crazy.
So come back, start growing wild.
So, okay, let me ask you, coming back, I'm just thinking of somebody from the diaspora. Were you scared? Were you scared that this thing won't work here?
First, I think I'd had it traveling around the world. I'd done all this travel from a student.
Yes, I get it.
To whatever. Number two, I felt like I had lived it all. I had made good money, had everything. And so some of the things that I had planned were going to be part of my career later came a lot earlier. I held a global career, done a global role, learned so much.
How old are you by the time
level.
I was
now 26. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I felt first I had lived the life. Number two, I had a bit of an adverse reaction to the Norwegian weather. Norway sometimes has time when it's dark almost 24/7. And just because of, having come from the equator where you have equal days and nights, that just drove me crazy. So I used to get depressed and that kind of stuff.
Actually, hold on, that's a huge thing to talk about. And thank you for bringing it up. Weather and we first of all, we don't understand how good it is that we have it here because this is all we know. Like right now it's cold, but have you seen how this is summer in other places?
Yes. Yeah.
So the weather actually brought you to the point of depression.
There are times we would have, first of all,
what with the darkness?
So we'd have darkness, and also like we've gone to minus 40 degrees of temperature, minus 40. And there are places get worse than that. I'm just like those days you wake up and you're just like, what am I doing here? In fact, I used to joke and ask the Norwegians, like, your forefathers walked the entire world and this is where they decided to settle. Like where you have this darkness and cold, like what were they thinking settling here? So because of our experience, and my wife had also experienced something similar, like it's just depressing. Like during those days, it's depressing. No family around you, no friends. In fact, I think that's why we bonded very quickly. Because like she's the only one I had, I'm the only one she had on that side. So after sharing those experiences and bonding, both of us were clear we can't live with this kind of thing for much longer. Yeah, so that was part of a driver to come back. So I was looking forward to coming back and just reintegrating here.
That question I keep, because I think that's one of the biggest hindrances of people coming back home.
No, I think, remember I had built a network through the ISEC board and whatever. So I was like, even if I'm going back to get a job, I'm not worried that I would find something in due time. But I also had the company that I was coming back to. So I had options that I was excited about, that I was looking forward to coming back to. And so, yeah, got on the plane, came back and started reintegrating myself.